Happy Friday and welcome back to our conversation about choosing to live our lives with intentionality. This is Father Mark over at Christ the Redeemer Catholic Church, and as we are concluding a conversation about how our lives can be aligned with our deepest desires in life, we're going to have to choose to be intentional, especially when we don't want to. And I just want to encourage you today. This is the fifth week of a series, and we find ourselves, I think, in the third week of a new year. And if you have struggled along the way, I just want to offer encouragement, because those things are part of life. Often the temptation whenever we find ourselves struggling is to give up. Often the temptation when we don't feel God's presence is to give up. Oftentimes the temptation when we keep making the same mistakes is for us to give up. And if we're going to live our lives with intentionality, we have to do so when we don't feel like it, and we have to do so when we're making mistakes, and we have to do so even in the ordinary humdrum of life. We're not always going to feel God's presence, and we're not always going to feel the deepest desires of our hearts. And sometimes the lack of quote-unquote feeling is because we've made mistakes. Sometimes it's just because we're tired, and sometimes because it's in the ordinary moments in life. But choosing to choose, especially when we don't feel like it, is actually the classroom that teaches us how to stay engaged with God and to stay on course, you might say, with our deepest desires in life when we don't feel it at all. I want to encourage you today with wherever you find yourself in the podcast series and wherever you find yourself on the journey. If God feels close, great, but if he doesn't, then that's okay too. If you feel like you're making progress, great. And if you don't feel like you're making progress, that's okay too. Just don't quit. The temptation is always a temptation, and the temptation will most be tempting whenever we don't feel God's presence, or when we don't feel like we're making progress. Be encouraged, make the little choices in life, learn from the classroom in life in that habit of self-reflection, and persevere, especially in the tough times. This weekend at Christ Redeemer, we're going to continue our series entitled, What Are the Odds? And we're going to talk about this weekend, what are the things that prevent us from actually getting in touch with our deepest desires in life. Next week in the podcast series, we're going to talk about how we can live our lives in awe of everything that's there. And doing that, especially when you don't feel God's presence, is actually a great gift. I encourage you to continue persevering. I encourage you to prepare for Mass and come join us at Christ the Redeemer this weekend. And until we either see you or continue the conversation tomorrow, God bless you.